Hey there, and welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're tearing into a document, and at first glance, it might just look like, well, a stack of admin paper, right? We're talking about a request for proposal, an RFP, but don't let that fool you, because buried inside, we've actually found this fascinating blueprint. Yeah, it's not just paperwork; it's really a strategic roadmap for how the U.S. Air Force is looking to transform how it supports its aircraft, like worldwide. Our mission today to unpack this thing. FA 853225R004. That's the formal name for the Next Generation Aerospace Ground Equipment Engage Multiple Award Contract. It's an IDIQ contract, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. We're going to pull out the most important insights, kind of give you a shortcut to understanding a really critical piece of, well, national defense infrastructure. Think of it like peeking behind the curtain of military readiness.
That's a great way to put it. And it's true, this isn't just a list of specs. It's really a window into the strategy, how they think about maintaining readiness globally, managing these incredibly complex supply chains, and even how procurement decisions can subtly touch on international policy. What was really remarkable is how one document pulls together so many different high-stakes requirements. Tactical, geopolitical, it's all in there.
So what does this mean for you listening? Well, we're going to break down what NG is really for. It's frankly astonishing scale, and we'll dig into some really surprising details hidden in the fine print. We'll see how this one contract impacts everything from, say, contractor digital security all the way to global supply chains. Let's get into it. 1. The big picture. What is NG'd and why does it matter? Okay, so to really get this blueprint, we need to understand the basics first.
Yeah.
What exactly is this aerospace ground equipment, or AG, and what's the main goal of this NG contract?
Right. So AGE basically covers all the essential gear used on the ground, stuff that directly supports the aircraft operating. Think about everything needed to launch a fighter, recover a big cargo plane, or just do the ongoing maintenance on, say, a bomber systems. We're talking mobile power units, hydraulic test stands, specialized tools, diagnostic equipment, pretty much anything needed to keep aircraft ready. And that's everything from fighters and bombers to cargo, tankers, even unmanned systems.
Got it. So all the stuff around the plane that makes the plane work. And this contract, the NG IDQ MSI, it's designed to modernize all that.
And deliver it.
Modernize and deliver, exactly. A really broad range of this critical AG. And you mentioned agile combat support. That's key here.
Yeah, what does that signal? Well, it signals the Air Force's need for extreme flexibility, rapid deployment capability. It means ensuring forces can quickly set up, operate, and maintain aircraft anywhere, like anywhere, often in pretty tough remote spots. So the support equipment, the AGE, it has to be just as adaptable, just as innovative, and quick to get out there. The goal of this contract is to set up a mandatory use vehicle for the Support Equipment and Vehicles Division SEV down at Robins Air Force Base. It covers the whole life cycle of AGE globally. And the main point isn't just, maintaining existing gear long term. It's about executing funds rapidly for designing, developing, testing, implementing new solutions. It's about innovation speed.
Right, staying ahead. That makes total sense. Especially with such a diverse fleet fighters, bombers, cargo, tankers, drones. That's a massive spectrum to support. Okay, so when you first dug into the details, what really jumped out at you about the sheer scope? What kind of money are we talking?
Well, yeah, the scale definitely grabs your attention. This is a 10-year contract if you include all the options. And the maximum ceiling, $920 million.
Wow. 920 million, almost $1 billion.
Almost $1 billion, yeah. Just for this ground support equipment evolution.
That figure, I mean, it's not just big, is it? It really highlights the constant need for innovation here. It tells you this isn't a one-off purchase. It's a long-term dynamic commitment to readiness, keeping pace as the aircraft themselves keep evolving. 2, navigating the contract landscape, structure and flexibility. Okay, nearly $1 billion, 10 years. This can't be just a simple purchase order. How does the Air Force structure something this massive to keep it flexible and competitive? You mentioned it's an IDIQ, a MAC, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, multiple award contract. Can you break that down for us? Like, what does that actually mean in practice?
Sure. So indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, or IDIQ, that's really fundamental. It means the government isn't committing upfront to buy a specific number of things. Instead, they commit to a range and they order items when and if ordered. This gives them huge flexibility. They can adapt to changing needs over that decade without getting stuck buying gear that might become outdated.
Okay, so it's like setting up a preferred shopping list with approved vendors, but they only buy what they need when they need it?
That's a good way to think about it. And the multiple award contract, or MA part, That means they plan to award contracts to several companies at the same time.
Ah, so it's not just one supplier.
Right. That encourages competition, keeps prices potentially sharper, spurs innovation, and it also means they have a wider base of suppliers, so they're not overly reliant on just one company if something goes wrong.
Makes sense for managing risk and getting diverse solutions. But okay, with this massive ceiling, what's the government's initial financial commitment to each company that wins an award? You'd think it would be substantial to get them started.
Well, this is where it gets really interesting, and honestly a bit surprising. The absolute minimum obligation, the guaranteed money for each contractor they award to, it's only $1,000.
$1,000, seriously, for potentially being part of a $920 million program.
Yep, just $1,000.
What's that possibly for? It seems almost symbolic.
It is, in a way, and it's quite clever, strategically. This very low initial amount isn't about being cheap. It's designed to encourage a wide range of companies,
Right.
including maybe smaller innovators, to bid. It lowers the barrier to entry and the government's initial risk. That $1,000 specifically covers one-time attendance at a virtual post-award conference, basically an onboarding meeting.
Ah, so it's like the entry ticket. Formalizes the relationship, brings them into the system without a huge upfront promise from the government. Smart. So the real work, the actual orders, come later. How does that process work, and how is pricing handled then?
Right. All the actual needs are met through individual delivery order or task orders. And it's important to note, ordering isn't decentralized. Only one specific office, the AFL-CIMC-ROK contracting office, can issue these engage orders.
So centralized control keeps things consistent.
Exactly. And the pricing, it varies for each specific order. They might use cost plus fixed fee, firm fixed price, or other types depending on the task. There are no set prices at the main contract level. Cost and price get evaluated rigorously for each individual order, making sure they get the best value for that specific need.
Okay, very flexible. And once an order is placed, how long can that specific project run? Is everything capped by that 10-year contract end date?
That's another good point about flexibility. Each individual order gets its own period of performance. And here's the interesting part. That period can actually extend beyond the final contract ordering period by up to 5 years.
Oh, wow. So work could technically continue for 15 years from the start.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
If an order is placed right near the end of the 10-year ordering window, the work on that specific order could continue for another 5 years. It shows significant long-term planning, especially for complex development projects that might take several years to complete. 3, maintaining the supplier base, on-ramping and off-ramping.
Okay, so we've got multiple companies involved, a long time frame, potentially up to 15 years of work ongoing. How does the Air Force manage this pool of suppliers over such a long haul? Can new companies join? Can underperformers get dropped? It can't be a fixed list for a decade, can it?
No, absolutely not. It's designed to be dynamic.
Yeah.
That's crucial for a program focused on innovation. The contract document clearly lays out mechanisms for both on-ramping new contractors and off-ramping existing ones.
On-ramping sounds like adding players to the team. Why would they need to do that?
Exactly. An on-ramp is basically an opportunity to bring new companies into the contract pool after the initial awards. This is vital for a few reasons. It keeps the supplier base robust and diverse, maintains competitive pressure, and maybe most importantly, it lets the Air Force bring in companies with new technologies or capabilities that might emerge during the contract's life. Things they couldn't have predicted at the start.
Right.
Now, the government isn't required to do these on-ramps. It's totally at the discretion of the main contracting officer, the PCO.
Got it. So it keeps the door open for fresh ideas. And off-ramping is the other side of that coin, getting rid of companies.
Precisely. Off-ramping means removing an awarded contractor from the pool. And the reasons are spelled out pretty clearly. Things like not being able to perform satisfactorily, failing to fix problems after being notified, also being unresponsive, not meeting cybersecurity or data standards, what they call digital domain adherence, getting too many negative performance reports, or releasing sensitive government data without permission.
Okay, so there are teeth in the contract to ensure quality and compliance over the long run.
Definitely. It's a critical tool for maintaining standards and accountability, making sure only the best and most reliable contractors stay involved throughout the program's life. 4, deep dive into specific requirements beyond the basics.
All right, this is where government contracts often hide some really interesting, sometimes surprising details. The fine print, right? What were some of the standout clauses or specific requirements you found in this Engage RFP that go beyond just the, the big picture goals.
Yeah, this is where you really see the depth of modern procurement. It shows all the different layers of control and strategic thinking. First off, there's the item Unique Identification and Valuation Clause, the IUID clause.
IUID, what's that about?
Okay, so for pretty much any item delivered that costs $5,000 or more, and even for critical subparts or things needing warranties, the contractor has to assign and mark it with a unique ID. And how they mark it is specific, using a two-dimensional data matrix symbol. Things like kind of complex QR code. It has to be machine-readable and meet specific international standards, ISO AA standards.
Wow. So serious tracking, not just the big equipment, but down to components if they're valuable or critical. Why such precision right now? What's the driver?
Well, you mentioned tracking. It's definitely about detailed traceability, lifecycle management, essential for maintenance, logistics, security. But maybe more importantly today, it's a direct countermeasure against counterfeit parts getting into the defense supply chain. That's a huge concern. If a bad part or a fake shows up, IUID lets them trace it back instantly, isolate it, potentially stop a failure from spreading across the fleet. There are also detailed reporting requirements tied to this when items are delivered, feeding into systems like wide area workflow.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Counterfeits are a real risk. But you mentioned this document touches on broader security and geopolitical issues too, right? It's not just technical stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is where procurement becomes a direct tool of national policy. You see clauses related to the Federal Acquisition Supply Chain Security Act, or FSTSARI. These explicitly ban contractors from providing or even using certain products or services from sources flagged in FSCSA orders.
Like specific companies or countries?
Exactly. The RFP explicitly prohibits using covered items from Kaspersky Lab entities, for example, and also prohibits the use of ByteDance covered applications, like TechTalk, on devices used for the contract work.
Right. So the contract clauses directly reflect current national security directives and geopolitical tensions. They're actively managing supply chain risk from specific sources.
Precisely. And it goes further. There's a requirement for post-award disclosure of employment of individuals who work in the People's Republic of China for contracts over $5 million.
Really? What do they need to disclose?
Contractors have to report the total number of people working on the contract in the PRC and describe their physical presence there. It's about transparency regarding potential foreign influence or data access risks. And then there's also a prohibition regarding Russian fossil fuel operations, though it has some limited exceptions. So yeah, these clauses clearly show the Air Force aligning its buying power with broader U.S. foreign policy and national security goals, making sure defense dollars aren't supporting adversaries or creating vulnerabilities.
Incredible layering, from tracking tiny parts to navigating global politics. What about other big government pushes like sustainability? Does that show up here?
It does, yeah. It shows how broad these considerations are now. There's a specific Sustainable Products and Services Clause, dated fairly recently, May 2024. It requires contractors to use certain environmentally preferred products when they're applicable. Things like bio-based products, Energy Star or FEMP-designated energy-efficient items, WaterSense labeled products for water efficiency, and Safer Choice certified cleaning products.
So even in defense procurement, there's a push for greener choices.
It reflects that wider government mandate, yes, balancing operational needs with trying to be more environmentally responsible.
And what about clauses aimed at the contractors themselves? I think you mentioned an ombudsman and common access cards.
Right. The Ombudsman Clause is actually quite important for fair process. It gives companies, both bidders and actual contractors, a confidential way to raise concerns or seek help resolving issues before they file a formal protest, which can save everyone time and money. It encourages collaboration. And the CAC for Contractor Personnel Clause, that's about the common access cards, those standard military ID cards, just ensures that any contractor employee needing access, either physical access to a base or logical access to Air Force computer systems, gets a CAC and manages it properly. Standard security, but absolutely critical.
Makes sense. And we also saw things like limitations on subcontracting.
Yeah, standard stuff there, making sure the prime contractor does a certain percentage of the work themselves or uses similarly situated entities, which often includes small businesses.
And various warranty clauses, too.
Right. Detailed warranties for different types of supplies and systems, spelling out what happens if things break or don't meet spec. It protects the government's investment. All these clauses together really paint a picture of the government trying to balance getting innovative technology with managing risk, ensuring security, getting value, and even addressing broader policy goals.
Yeah, it really does. Which leads to a big question, doesn't it?
Hmm.
How on earth do contractors keep track of all this? I mean, the technical specs, the digital tracking, the global politics, environmental rules, security protocols, all while delivering on time for a decade-long, nearly billion-dollar program. It must
Yeah.
be incredibly complex to manage.
It absolutely is. It requires constant vigilance, a really deep understanding of all these regulations, and a significant amount of corporate agility to adapt. It's definitely not simple. Outro.
Wow. What an incredible deep dive. We started with what looked like just another government form, an RFP, and we've uncovered this whole strategic world within it. The Engage contract is clearly way more than just a shopping list. It's a tool for readiness, a reflection of global supply chain anxieties, even a way to push policy on sustainability and international relations.
It really is. We went from that huge, almost billion-dollar view of aerospace ground equipment right down to the tiny details of unique item IDs and specific bands related to, Kaspersky or ByteDance. It just shows how intricate modern government procurement has become. Every single clause seems to have layers of meaning and strategic purpose.
So for you listening, what's the takeaway? I guess next time you hear about a big government contract, remember there's this whole hidden world beneath the surface. A world of strategy, technology, compliance, all working, sometimes in surprising ways, to keep critical operations running, and often touching on things happening globally.
Yeah, the key thing is that these documents, they might seem dry, but they're living blueprints. They're constantly adapting to new tech, new threats, new policies. It reflects this ongoing effort to be agile, resilient, innovative, and efficient, all at the same time in a really complex world.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you feel a bit more clued in, maybe even a little fascinated by the stories hidden inside these kinds of essential documents. Until next time, keep digging into the details. You really never know what fascinating nuggets you might find.